nacho cheese and asshole. We're live, loves.
We are live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. We have a grand total of zero. We are waiting for some people to arrive.
It's a big
ticker
Thursday.
Is still at 0. This is the AJ and Chris show on Dallas Cowboy Day. Go figure.
It's our proudest
the AJ
show yet.
and Chris show. Dave is taking care of a personal matter today, and he will not get to give his breakdown of the Dallas Cowboys and Tampa Bay Bucs game. That's going to fall on the shoulders of myself and AJ. We got one.
Hey you.
Hey, bruv.
Hey you. Should we just roll into the show and let the people gather along as we go?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, all right.
Let's do it.
Let's get right into it. We got
all right.
The intro.
Welcome everybody to doing the open. So here we go. Welcome to the Chop Sports Daily. We got myself and we got AJ sitting in for Dave today.
Yes, sir.
Dave is taking care of a personal matter, and it's such a shame because Dave won't get to break down his Dallas Cowboys and Tampa Bay matchup.
I could spoil it for you. Dak throws for 500 yards. CeeDee Lamb has 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, and the Dallas Cowboys go on to win 56-9.
That's Dave's prediction. No, that's not really Dave's prediction, but we'll be able to deliver the unbiased breakdown. Not that Dave is biased out there on the Cowboys. But
never.
We got a good show today. It's football season, baby. Football season is back. Everybody's excited about football season.
I've never been more excited in my life, honestly, for a game.
I'm almost equally as excited about the Wu-Tang American Saga back on Hulu. I streamed that last night for like 4 episodes. AJ,
I don't know.
You're not up on the Wu-Tang.
I listened to some Wu-Tang. I think I listened to the album. I think it's called Enter the Wu-Tang. Is that what it's called? Is that a tape of sorts?
36 Chambers.
Yeah. I've listened to that. It was very good tape, but I don't know. Something about the rap style. I need something a little more kind of like upbeat and bass heavy.
You're dead to me, bass heavy. All right. Anyway, we're not going to sit here and talk about the Wu-Tang Clan anymore, even though they are kind of an inspiration behind the whole Chop Sports name. Everybody thinks it's Rutgers, but it's actually Wu-Tang. Now, shout out to Jimmy Palumbo for giving me shit about constantly wearing my Packer shit on the show. So I'm curious what people think. Jimmy says that it's a bad look for us to constantly wear our team's colors. Now, I personally don't care, but I'm curious to know what the people say. AJ's got his Mets hat on today.
I see. My take with it is like, as long as you're not carrying that bias on your hat into your takes, then you're fine, honestly, because I think that's what people really want. People don't want to listen to a daily sports show, right? And just have it be either a Packers, like, oh, let's relate it back to the Packers. Oh, let's relate it back to the Cowboys. They want a general point of view. We're ready to
So in other words, Jimmy, keep your mouth shut about my wardrobe. But so yeah, fantasy draft season is over, bro.
It's over.
I did my 6 drafts. You did your 31 drafts. So if you were one of those people that, like me, and I didn't wait until the last day, but say even you waited until the very, very last day to do your fantasy football draft, and you waited until Wednesday before the season kicks off on Thursday, which is the last possible day. You don't want to deal with any injuries, any trades that kind of shake things up in the depth charts. You get everything as is going into the season, unless you drafted Austin Ekeler with your first round pick, and you wake up today to the news that Austin Ekeler is now dealing with a hamstring. They couldn't announce this last week for the fantasy people out there. I know Austin Ekeler is big into fantasy. He's offering money to people that win leagues with him. Is that correct?
Yes, he is offering money, and also account I follow on the fantasy guy, a guy I got to know through some groups earlier in my page. He has Austin Ekeler in his league always. And it's pretty crazy to me. Eckler's a big fantasy guy, and he must know he's letting himself down here with this hamstring issue. You know, it's tough.
So what do you think, though? What do you make of it? Now,
so what I make of it is there's been multiple players now that have gotten the questionable tag all of a sudden on a Wednesday, on Thursday, and you're thinking to yourself, like, when the hell did this happen? Now, what I'm taking into account is the fact that a guy like Antonio Brown, that's maintenance. They're doing maintenance. I feel like a guy like Austin Ekeler, he's a little injury prone, but I think he's a phenomenal player when he's on the field. They're doing a little bit of maintenance. He may have tweaked something. I still think he goes week 1, but I think you're a little less certain about that.
I think he's going to play week 1. I know in the NFL, the coaches are big on practicing Friday. So if you can't practice Friday, in some cases, coaches just say, well, if you can't practice, then you can't play. I think that there's going to be an exception to the Ekeler situation because, like you said, it's potential that it's just maintenance and there's no reason. The game is Sunday. They need their guy back healthy this season. So why push it? But still, it still pours a little bit of cold water on those projections with Austin Ekeler this season going at.
Yeah, it's scary because like I have him in a few leagues, but the thing is, like, his potential, the ceiling, and it's so damn high, and the floor is pretty low too. But the injuries, they're so concerning.
I'm all in on Ekeler when he's playing, but that's the problem. He's burned me too many times in the past, so I'm kind of like on the do not draft Austin Ekeler unless it's like the last potential lead back you would get and you find yourself in that situation. But I've never been big on Ekeler for the injury history, and it's kind of proving my point right now.
So you have him at like the back end of a tier 2.
No, I have him the back end of a tier 1. I'm talking like Austin Ekeler has potential, and I think his average points per fantasy game over the last 3 seasons when playing is higher than anybody in football. That includes Christian McCaffrey, that includes Dalvin Cook, that includes Derrick Henry, all the guys you see going in the top 3. So Austin Ekeler is a problem when it comes to being healthy, but the problem is that he's never healthy. So
I thought that was actually some really good insight because I had no clue about the fact that he's scoring more than Christian McCaffrey
he's
on a game-to-game basis.
He just doesn't play. So, yeah, Austin Ekeler fans, Austin Ekeler owners, and I guess fans, tough break early. It's not like the season's over, and it could be nothing, but it's still not great news.
Let's be optimistic. Let's hold some faith here.
Yeah. So what else do we got on
We got Bradley Roby. He's a pretty solid corner. He's been on the Texans for the past few years. He gets traded to the New Orleans Saints. And now what I'm going to ask you is, do you think that's a big move for them considering their lack of cornerback depth at the position?
Obviously, anytime you're getting, I wouldn't say he's starting caliber, but he could be in the right situation. I don't know that the Texans have many starting caliber players on that team. And anybody that is a starting caliber player that is kind of owed some money, I would imagine they're trying to get rid of. So I said this on the podcast yesterday, I think. We might have even touched on this particular trade, but I know that the Texans are just on a fire sale. So Texans, Jaguars, anybody that's on that team that's due money, you could probably pry off of their hands. Speaking of corners that might get traded, CJ Henderson is on the block for the Jaguars.
Really?
I always say his name wrong. Gilmore.
Stephon Gilmore?
Stephon Gilmore on the trading. I wouldn't say he's on the block, but those situations haven't really been sorted out. I've been reading news saying that the Patriots were actually tied to CJ Henderson in a trade. And if that's the case, I would say that most likely makes Gilmore available. What do you think happens with Gilmore? Does he stay? Or is he gonna get shipped off?
I see the thing with Belichick is I think he's a genius in knowing when to move on from players. He knows when time is right and when to let people go. And Stephon Gilmore, while he's an absolute beast, he's coming off a pretty devastating injury. And the contract, he's going to want a lot more money. He knows what he's doing. He's not going to take that risk. He's going to ship him off somewhere else. And honestly, what I think now that you brought up CJ Henderson, he's going to get that value guy and be able to, he just does what Bill Belichick does. He's a goddamn genius. Stephon Gilmore's out.
Yeah, Bill Belichick, you see what he's saying about Cam. Cam gave us everything. Cam gave us everything he had. And he was talking about, I think he mentioned something about the playbook, or was that Mac Jones?
I think it was Mac Jones.
Mac Jones, or somebody was saying, I think it was, Ninkovich, saying that Mac Jones had to teach Cam the plays. That must be because Mac Jones is in the backyard with his girlfriend doing walkthroughs.
Dude, Mac Jones, that's awesome. Like, apparently his girlfriend also was not only doing walkthroughs then, but during the entire COVID thing, she spent the entire season with him, like, running through plays. Like, that's a great relationship.
The more I learn about Mac Jones, the legend of Mac Jones, the more I like the guy.
Yeah.
To me, he's almost the anti-Tom Brady. He's like the Bill. And I know that this is crazy because I am a big Patriot hater, but I find myself last season and even going into this season kind of rooting for the Patriots a little bit because I hate Tom Brady that much, where I would like to see Bill Belichick kind of stick it to him a little bit. They get to play, I think, week 4 in New England, which is going to be probably the biggest matchup in NFL history for a week 4 matchup. But What do you think, Mac Jones? Does he get it done this year? Is he gonna? I think Mac Jones has a chance. I think New England.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but I think based off the fact that we go ahead and we look at our standings and our projections from yesterday, we think that Mac Jones is going to be the real deal this year. I think that while they don't necessarily have a weapon that stands out as a guy that is marquee and is going to be his go-to guy, I think that the balance of weapons they have and the different skill sets they have, and a guy like a Kendrick Bourne, a Nelson Aguilar, a N'Keal Harry, Jacoby Myers, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, he's
going to have to do his best Tom Brady impersonation from Tom Brady early days, where he was throwing the ball to the guys that nobody even heard of. And he made into stars. I wouldn't say stars, but the lot of receivers that played for the Patriots that were just kind of ragtag guys, journeymen. They go to the Patriots and all of a sudden they're all pro caliber players. I wouldn't say all pro, but
I agree.
Champions.
But the Patriots aren't going to play a sexy style of play this year. But let me tell you, they're going to win games. And I believe, hurts me saying this as a Jets guy, I believe in Mac Jones and I believe in those Patriots. So watch out.
So what do you believe about Mac Jones and Cam's little breakup?
Oh my God.
It sounds a little weird.
Yeah,
Mac Jones is like, we're going to stay in touch.
Me and Chris were talking about this what is it? Not pregame. We weren't
pre-show.
Pre-production, during the pre-pro meeting, we were talking and we were talking about how this Cam Newton, Mac Jones breakup, it's just awkward. It's just like Mac Jones is the hot girl that broke up with the dude, and now Mac Jones is dating a stud. I mean, he's with Bill Belichick. He's with the Patriots, and Cam Newton, he's just at home, lonely, sad. And Mac Jones is just hitting up like, I still want to talk a bit. Like, if I'm Cam Newton, I'd be like, all right, bro, don't be good, bro. Like, get the hell away from me. I don't want to talk to you. Like,
do we got any more NFL? Before we
get into some NBA
talk? I know you wanted to talk about the Wilson and Darnold matchup.
Yeah, let's talk about Wilson and Darnold because both of the guys have been interviewed a lot this week, and the main storyline going into that game is one quarterback going to shine? Obviously, Sam Darnold was the quarterback for the Jets the past few years. We saw that didn't wind up working out. They went ahead and they traded him to the Carolina Panthers. They go ahead and select Zach Wilson, number 2 in the draft. So they have their ex-quarterback and their current quarterback battling it out. I personally think that Sam Darnold saying that he doesn't really care about outperforming Zach Wilson, I think that's BS. I think that he wants to go out there and set the world on fire against his ex-team. And if he didn't, I would think a bit less of him, honestly.
I agree that I would think lesser of him. I don't really think that the Jets necessarily did Sam Darnold wrong.
No.
Other than the fact that they had Adam Gase as his head coach for all his entire career.
That's cruel treatment alone, though.
So I think based on that fact, when he had to deal with Adam Gase, probably the worst NFL coach that I've ever seen, or arguably, right? So he has to be bitter because that's the competitive fire that you want your quarterback to have. But I don't really think that the Jets did anything wrong to Sam Darnold. I think he was desperate to get out of town to begin with, and you would have never heard him say that while he was still in town. But it was time for a new beginning for Sam, and they put him in a situation with a coach that's going to allow him to do his thing a little bit. They have some weapons over there. He's reunited with his boy, Robbie Anderson.
Yes, sir, Robbie.
I don't know how great the connection was because Darnold didn't throw more than like 13 TDs in the season. But I actually think that this is a decent matchup for both teams. You're going to see both quarterbacks kind of play well. I think they're both sleepers going into this season fantasy-wise. When I say sleeper, I mean like you might be able to start them in a good week, in a bye week once. Yeah. I'm not saying go out and draft Sam Darnold or Zach Wilson as your starter, but you can't anyway because draft season's over.
There's something interesting that I saw when I was reading an article about this, and that is that Robert Saleh had went on quote and said that he planned originally on drafting Zach Wilson no matter what. So they were going to keep Sam Darnold and take Wilson at 2 anyways, rather than another position they could address. That's how much they had faith in Zach Wilson.
And didn't have faith in Sam Darnold. So maybe he won't be a sleeper this year. But anyway, enough about football until we break down the game after the break. We'll talk a little NBA. We got a lot of things happening in the world of Ben Simmons. And before we get to Ben Simmons, what do you think of Dame committing? I do the air quotes for the listeners.
We have official commitment from Damian Lillard. He has said that he is officially staying put for now. ...
For now. Yeah. So the for now thing means, I guess, he's going to go back this season because they couldn't work out a trade.
Yeah.
In other words. Yeah. And I think Dame is a free agent after this season. Mm-hmm. So yeah, for now. He'll be back this year. You saw Dame got married a couple weeks ago. and his Twitter was kind of going off. Now, typically, I look at Dame as one of the fan favorites, but in the world of the internet,
there are no fan
even
favorites.
If you're a fan of Dame, you're not going to pass the opportunity to give a good joke. And there was some funny jokes in there. The funniest one being like, that's the only ring Dame's going to get. And Kendrick Perkins comes in and he's like, oh, that's the only ring that matters. Kendrick Perkins, shut up. Just going to leave that at that. But yeah, I'm a big Dame guy. I think he will stay in Portland this year and he'll get another first round exit in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Dame time in Portland, one more season. Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons was seen, or I don't even know if he was seen. He literally set that up.
Let's show it.
Yeah, pull it up. Ben Simmons is trolling the media, ladies and gentlemen. And I think this is great.
So do I. Love it.
I think Ben Simmons is a little bitch. Personally, I think he's a pussy. But Ben Simmons, I mean, he just have some fun with it at this point.
Yeah.
He's pretty much going to go. The teams that are interested in Ben Simmons, Golden State, San Antonio, Sacramento, Minnesota, Cleveland. Now, Ben Simmons just keeps all of those teams very regular.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a believer in Ben Simmons. I don't know that he's going to get moved. This is one of those things where it's like a really messy divorce. And they might end up not being able to get divorced in time for the season. And Ben Simmons is not going to, if he misses camp, he skips out on like 1.2 mil. If he sits out the season, that's $40 million. So Ben Simmons is not going to sit out the season. The clock is ticking on a trade, and Philly's asking price is like 4 first-round picks. None of these teams are going to give up that capital. When do you think this happens? Does it happen? And if it does happen, where does he go?
Wow. Okay. I think it does happen because I think, simply put, both sides hate each other that much. I think Doc Rivers has very little to no respect.
Well,
for
yeah,
Ben
Doc
Simmons.
Rivers came out and said, I think it was right after the playoff loss, that they had no confidence, and then I want to say the Sixers brass and Ben Simmons met up in LA, I think a month ago, maybe at the end of July, and there was no apology. That's what I think Ben Simmons or a guy familiar with this situation said. Nobody apologized, so now Ben Simmons is done with Philly. Well, it's like, well, pretty sure they're done with you, Ben. You didn't take a single shot in the fourth quarter in any game where your team needed you. So I don't really think he's in position to call the shots.
I think if he goes anywhere, probably, I mean, I see it as Golden State. I feel like that would be a wonderful spot for him as a guy where he can distribute the ball. That's the best. That's the one thing he's best at.
Yeah.
If he could distribute the ball to some of the best shooters.
Because he can't shoot and won't shoot. So you're correct. Out of those teams, it's Golden State, but I don't know that they have the draft capital right now.
Well, that's the thing.
I mean, I guess anybody does. In the
76ers just got to, at some point, eat the L on Ben Simmons. Like, you made that mistake signing him. You have to eat it.
Full disclosure. I say I don't know that Golden State has the draft capital right now. I have no idea what Golden State's draft capital is, or any other team on this list for that matter. So I don't know why I said that. Do you know what Golden State's draft capital is?
I like how you just like outed yourself.
Well, that's
guys,
what you gotta
listen,
do,
I don't know. I swear to God, I don't know. Please. No, I think their draft situation's all right at the moment. They may have gotten some second-round picks in some recent trades, but they didn't get any first-rounders. They didn't trade anybody too prominent. Andrew Wiggins is a guy that's probably going to be on the move this year, but they're not going to get a first-rounder. And what is it, in retrospect for him? I
mean, Wiggins and Ben Simmons. Wiggins is where? He's in Minnesota?
Wiggins is in Golden State. He's a Warrior.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Wiggins has been everywhere. Huh? He's been
that
on
guy's
every one of these teams listed in the Ben Simmons sweepstakes. But yeah, so enough about the NBA. We're gonna take a little bit of a break. Like Dave says, we're gonna go pay the bills, and then when we come back, we're gonna talk about the Cowboys getting drubbed by the Bucs.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Woo!
See you guys. And we are back.
What's up, bruvs? We're back and we're breaking down some
You ready
football.
to do it? Pull up the first graphic, AJ. We are back.
We got
the Dallas Cowboys at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tonight at 8:20. It says 8:20. It's changed. The spread moved up to 8.5.
Mm-hmm.
So the money is going on Tampa Bay. I understand that. The over/under is 51.5. So my initial thoughts are, full disclaimer right here: do not take these picks as gospel. I am not
we are not betting experts.
I am not a handicapper by any stretch, and I did not watch Kyle Kerm's video last night on Bucs and the Cowboys, the breakdown. So if you want to check that out, he is a handicapper. Go on Kyle Kerm's on YouTube or the Sauce Network and check out his stuff because he's the guy.
He is the guy.
He's the guy.
He's the South.
And I would be remiss if I did not mention that in the comments yesterday, Dave got a little bit of those trigger finger or Twitter fingers. That's what they call them, right? Twitter fingers, where I think Kyle mentioned something about Dallas giving up a lot of points. I think that's the common theme. Seeing where the money is going, everybody thinks Dallas is going to give up a ton of points. So Dave went out and said, if Dallas gives up 40 points or whatever it was, that he will sign over half of his shares of the company to Kyle. Now, I know that Dave was not serious because I think there's a really good chance that Tampa Bay puts 44 on Dallas.
What if they score exactly 44 points?
I don't know what the total is, but I think they might score 44. I'll give my total later on, but yeah, let's get into it here. Key matchups, AJ.
Yes, sir. Let's get into it. We got the Bucs wide receivers versus the Cowboys secondary. I mean, if you guys look at it, there's a Mike Evans, there's a Chris Godwin, there's an Antonio Brown. And then on the Dallas side of things, the guys that are covering that are a Anthony Brown. Yeah. Trevon Diggs, who I've seen that guy been burnt more times than a bagel at a shitty bagel place. And CJ Goodwin, who I've never heard of. So that is terrifying.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay receivers are loaded, and that's the matchup that everybody's, I guess, kind of banking on. The Bucs to score a ton of points. Tampa Bay's offensive line is pretty good. Dallas's defensive line is, I would say that they have potential to be better than people think, and I think that their linebackers are much improved with Micah Parsons. So I don't think Tampa's going to have much room to run against Dallas. As weird as that sounds, like, I'm not saying that Dallas is a run-stopping defense, but I do believe Micah Parsons is a special player, so he should make immediate improvements to that run defense. But Tampa Bay's just loaded at receiver. There's too many guys to cover on that team. I think the main matchup is Tom Brady versus Father Time. If Dallas has a chance in this game, it's going to be because Tom Brady comes out and plays like shit, which you've seen Tom Brady do in the past, early in the season, typically later in his career, and the guy's like 57. You have to imagine at some point that Father Time catches up to Tom, right? You say Father Time is undefeated. I made the joke. Father Time now has one loss. Tom Brady has officially beaten him last season. So Father Time has been beaten, and it's been Tom Brady. So at what point are we going to see the fall off for this guy?
I don't know, but one thing I do want to know, there is a fall off in physical appearance. If you look at Tom Brady here, dude, it looks like Jim Carrey did a pound of blow and got a good tan.
Now, when we're talking about physical appearance, there has been a drop off in my physical appearance.
Oh, mine is horrible.
I don't do any working out anymore for the past like 3 or 4 months, and it's kind of starting to show. Now, I have this ongoing thing that I could beat the shit out of Tom Brady. I looking at this picture, I firmly believe I could still beat up Tom Brady. But as he regresses in life, I am also regressing in life. So when he retires, I think that'll be a good matchup on the Rough and Rowdy. Tom, you want to set it up? We'll get in touch with my people. We'll turn Jimmy Palumbo into the
ring announcer.
The fight promote liaison.
Oh, the fight promote liaison.
And Dave is definitely taking the ring announcing.
He could be the Bruce Buffer.
You think Dave would let that opportunity go? Like, he'd be all in on ring announcing my fight with Tom
he'd
Brady.
Murder it, yeah.
But I'm not going to actually fight Tom. So
I think Tom Brady versus Father Time. Like, I think that Brady's going to go out there today and just kind of dominate. Like, the defense doesn't pose much of a threat, and with there's so many guys on that offense that could do damage. We're not even talking about the tight ends. We didn't even mention a Gronk. We didn't even mention a OJ Howard, a Cameron Brate. Like, these guys are all proven guys. Like, I don't know, just too much for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of depth there.
And then the Dallas O-line versus the Bucs front seven. Now, this is something that you had brought up earlier, so I want to hear your take on it. With Zach Martin out.
Is he out?
He's out.
A fact.
I'm almost positive.
I think that there's a chance that Zach Martin still might play if he passes some type of testing, but I'm not positive about that either. Maybe we should have looked that up before. But regardless, Dallas's offensive line is, I would say, one of their strengths.
It's official. He will not play.
He will not play. Okay, so Dallas's offensive line is obviously one of their strengths on their team. I think Tampa Bay has potentially the best front seven in the league right now. I wouldn't even say potentially. I think it's fair to say that on paper they have the best front seven in the league. That's going to be a great matchup. See if they could open any running lanes for Zeke, and potentially with Dak's ankle. I know there's a lot of talk about Dak's ankle not being able to hold up over the course of a season. I, for one, hope it does hold up.
I pray to God it does.
I'm deep on Dak in fantasy football this year, so I need Dak to stay healthy, but I'm not sure. Like that scar is fucking gnarly, and I don't know, coming back from an injury and having to play that team right out of the gate with a banged up O-line, you want to assume that the player's mental is there, but you don't know. That's going to be something to look for. Is Dak going to be able to take those hits? There's a lot of what ifs in this game.
I mean, yeah, and you were talking about that front seven, just some of the names: Shaquille Barrett, Levante David, Devin White, who we love that man, and I know you love him a bit more. You got him as Defensive Player of the Year this year. Jason Pierre-Paul, Golston, Vea, Sue. That is so much pressure up front. The over-under right now for Ezekiel Elliott's rushing total is set at 52.5. And while there's going to be tons of people out there, they're like, Zeke's going to rush for more than 53 yards. What the hell are you talking about? I would definitely recommend going ahead and thinking about that under in that situation.
Do you have those? Do you have our props?
I have our props and I'm about to pull them up right now. Let's go ahead and look at some of those. The first one that I wrote that I personally love for tonight, looking at the cornerback matches, looking at how Mike Evans plays. Mike Evans, 2 TDs plus 333. I just think that personally against smaller corners that the Cowboys have, especially a guy like Trayvon Diggs, I think that Mike Evans is just going to have a potty in the end zone. He's going to set up shop and he's going to have 2 TDs in tonight's game.
So that's that plus 333. I like the odds on that. I'm not touching it, but
okay.
You mentioned that Zeke might not have much room to run. I think that's probably the case. And I also believe that there's potential that Tampa Bay puts up a decent amount of points. If that's the case and the game script dictates over 20.5 receiving yards for Zeke, it's almost even money at minus 110. I feel like that's the play for me. If I'm going to touch a prop, I'm going to play it a little bit safe. Hard to handicap week 1. Yeah. So the props is kind of where I'll enter the fray. If I'm going to bet, I'm not really going to take I might take the over, but I'm definitely not laying the points. We'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, I like Zeke at 20.5 receiving yards. I think there's a big misconception that Zeke isn't a good receiver out of the backfield. But if you look at his numbers, he has some gaudy receiving totals over his career. Just the way this game is going to go, I think there's going to be some points. Dallas might not be able to run as much. So that's kind of why it plays into the fact there might not be room to run. But if they're down 2 touchdowns in the second half, they're probably going to be dumping it down to Zeke.
I mean, yeah, on top of that, I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers also have a really solid secondary. Carlton Davis is really good. Sean Murphy-Bunting is exceptional. Even a guy like Ross Cockrell, who is a bit of a lesser-known player, he has a really solid role on that team. Antoine Winfield over the top. So Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, those guys are going to be covered pretty well. You know who's not going to be? Our boy, Ezekiel Elliott. So I think the over 20.5 receiving yards is actually quite a great prop for tonight. And then Devin White, we kind of talked about this one together because we were like, well, what's a third one that we both like? Devin White over 10.5 tackles and assists. You think he's going to be tackling everybody and their mother this evening, correct?
I think he's going to win the Defensive Player of the Year this year. So if I think that, then I'm going to ride with him on week 1. I think he's geeked up. They're going to be using Zeke a lot. I feel like he's probably going to be, you said Zeke isn't going to be covered. I think he might be, and it might be that guy. I don't think that it's going to prevent him from getting 20 receiving yards or 20.5 receiving yards, but Devin White will be all over the field. I have a feeling that he's going to follow Zeke around everywhere he goes. If he does a little swing pass out of the backfield, Devin White will be there. Yeah, over 10.5 tackles. I think he has potential to get like 16 tackles. Now, the only thing that scares me off of this is that they have another great tackling linebacker in
Levante
Levante David. So pick your poison on those two. But Devin White, I just think he's a special player.
I definitely agree with that. Devin White is that dude. Now, before we go into our picks, I don't really think I asked you your pick before we started the show. I had just assumed you wanted Tampa Bay Bucs -8.5.
Yeah, you're correct. Now, I don't want Tampa Bay -8.5. I actually would prefer Dallas to win.
Okay.
I don't like Tom Brady one bit, but Tampa Bay is a really, really good roster. They have a really good roster. They put together well. They're coached well. They've had obvious team success, and they're confident. Dallas, there's a lot of questions surrounding Dallas. I am not a big fan of their head coach. I do believe in Dallas's offense. I don't believe in their defense. And just the week one aspect of things, I think it's kind of great for Dallas because you might get that flat Tom Brady. He talked about his offseason program was different. He looks clearly older. Yeah, so with those things being said, Tom might come out flat. I keep mentioning that, and I think that plays into Dallas's hands. If there is a way for Dallas to win, it's going to be because Tom Brady plays completely like shit.
So with 8.5, what do you think are the factors really that more so carry the Bucs over this line, a 9-point spread?
The receivers.
You think Simmons?
Yeah, just the wideouts. It's just hard to cover that many guys for that long. If Dallas and the fact that Dallas might not be able to run the ball as effectively and control the clock and keep the ball out of Tampa Bay's hands. That's the problem when you're playing a team like Tampa. You got to play catch up a lot, but that defense, once they get in protect the lead mode, they get a little bit better.
It's a good point. That's a good point. And on top of that, more so what I want to go ahead and say is that the Buccaneers, right? They're the Super Bowl champions, reigning Super Bowl champions in week one against the spread are 13-4-3. Even though that spread's looking a little big, that's how I like it. Usually how I go ahead and approach spreads is if it doesn't make sense or if you almost want to take the other side, then you take it because Vegas wants you to take the Cowboys in this game. They want you to take them with the points. I think that the Buccaneers are too dominant on the offensive side of the ball, and they might even prove that they're too dominant on the defensive side of the ball today. I can't tell if the Cowboys are going to score a lot of points because they have to work from behind and, Dak gets his usual inflated bonuses or all that, or if they literally cannot get anything going. For some reason, I'm getting a lot of Dak against the Patriots. Deja vu. I remember when the Cowboys had versed the Patriots in a previous matchup, that offense could not get anything going. And for some reason, I'm getting a little bit of that vibe this evening.
Well, when they played the Patriots, they didn't verse them. We've had in-depth discussions about this, but I understand where you're coming from, but I think Dallas will score. I do think that they're going to run it up a little bit as well. I think they got at least 3 or 4 touchdowns on the board, regardless, because their offense is dynamic. Are you going to give a final score prediction?
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's give a final score prediction. If I had to give my final score prediction, I would probably go ahead and put the Buccaneers up 35-10. 35-10.
Wow, 35-10. So under.
Mm-hmm.
Under and Dallas loses, but Dave gets to keep his business.
Yes. I do predict that Dave will get to keep the business today, but by a small amount of points.
Oh, the date is wrong on the ticker, AJ. It's supposed to be the 9th. Thank you, Joe, for bringing that to our attention. But it's too late now. It is too late now. So, yeah, I'm going to go with like 44-28. I do think that Tampa is going to score a ton of points, and Dallas is going to also score some points, but I love the over. I'm most confident in the over than I am laying the 9.5. I just think that both teams score. What else do we got? I think our rundown is ran out. Correct?
Yeah, that's about everything on the docket today. I mean, we got a ton of football coming up this weekend. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to be giving all of our picks for the upcoming slate Sunday. We're very excited about that. We're going to also dive a little bit into college football. We're going to talk about some of the best matchups coming this Saturday and Sunday.
You got AJ, you're doing your podcast. There'll be a fantasy guy released tonight.
Yeah, there will be a fantasy guy released today.
And some last minute fantasy advice for week one. We have another thing happening another show in the works. I'm not going to give too much information, but it is definitely fantasy football related. I'm not sure which day. It'll probably be on this feed, and it's going to be us. So it's going to be a Chop Sports podcast daily show production, but a little geared a little bit more different. And as we get more details on that, we'll talk more about that. Obviously, the BetMGM news. I don't want to talk too much about that because there's some logistics that we're still working out, but it is official. We are definitely partnered up with BetMGM. So as we get those links, we'll blast those out to everybody. Chopheads MMA. We'll be back this Monday. NFL Sunday. Tune in. We got a lot of things to do today and tomorrow to get set up, but this Sunday is official. We will be doing our NFL stream. We still do not have a name, which I think we'll come up with today, but it's going to be cool. We got Kyle Kerms coming in for that. We'll be doing a live production for, I guess, 7 hours. So with that being said, that's my best Dave's impersonation. With that said, myself, AJ in place of Dave, it's been a great show. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Penis.
We're still alive though, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Scoop, I'm too poor to send you money. I'm not in the survivor pool. I'm sorry. I'm officially bowing out.